The day the aliens came was sunny. No storms, no strange weather, just a perfect spring day. The large ship appeared above New York City without warning, hovering silently over Central Park. People stopped and stared upward, some running away, in fear, others taking videos with their phones. The world leaders gathered quickly. They had trained for this moment, though many had never truly believed it would come. Alan Wright, a tall man with graying hair and steady hands, was called from his university office where he taught advanced physics. The president had personally asked for him to join the first contact team. Alan was known for his calm thinking and clear communication. Those skills would be needed now more than ever. Susan Miller got the call while reviewing diplomatic papers. As the top diplomat with experience in difficult negotiations, she was the natural choice to stand beside Alan. With her sharp mind and ability to read people, she hoped those skills would work on aliens too. The alien ship sent a message in perfect English to every electronic device on Earth. We come in peace. We are the Galactic Council. Earth has been monitored and is now ready to join us among the stars. Within hours, the first meeting was arranged in a hastily prepared conference room at the United Nations. Security was tight, with nervous soldiers, holding weapons they suspected might be useless against visitors who could travel between stars. The aliens who walked into the room looked almost human, but not quite. They stood about 7 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their eyes were large and completely black, and they moved with strange grace, as if gravity affected them differently. "I am High Speaker Zorthul," said the tallest one, bowing slightly. "We represent the Galactic Council, a union of 327 advanced civilizations across 27 galaxies." Alan stepped forward. "I am Dr. Alan Wright, and this is Susan Miller. We welcome you to Earth on behalf of humanity." The aliens smiled, but Susan noticed something odd about their expressions. There was tension in their movements when humans came too close. She had seen this behavior before in diplomatic meetings, hidden nervousness poorly masked with politeness. "Have watched Earth for many centuries," Zorthul continued. "Your species has finally reached the technological and social development required for council membership. This is a great honor." "We are honored," Susan replied carefully. "But I must ask, why have you chosen to contact us now? What has changed?" The aliens exchanged quick glances. "The timing was determined by many factors," one of them said. "Your recent advances in quantum computing crossed an important threshold." The aliens invited the human delegation to tour their ship. Inside, it was filled with technology that made Earth's most advanced computers look like children's toys. Alan tried to ask questions about how their engines worked, but the aliens always changed the subject smoothly. During the tour, one alien presented a small silver device shaped like a teardrop. "This is the beacon," Zorthul explained. "It will allow you to communicate with the Council at any time. Consider it our welcome gift." Alan held the device carefully. "Thank you. Our scientists will be eager to study it." "Of course," Zorthul said quickly. "Though we ask that you do not attempt to open it. The internal components are quite sensitive." Later that evening, Dr. Kate Powell watched the news reports from her lab. As one of Earth's leading astrobiologists, she had expected to be called to examine the aliens. Instead, she found herself sidelined, watching events unfold on television like everyone else. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered to herself, rewinding the footage of the aliens. She had spent her career studying how life might evolve on other worlds, and something about these visitors didn't match any of her models. Their biology seemed too similar to Earth's in some ways, yet radically different in others. The next day, Kate used her university connections to access the preliminary medical scans taken during the aliens' visit. The data was limited. The aliens had politely declined most medical examinations. But there was enough for Kate to spot something strange. "Their cellular structure," she whispered to herself, staring at the screen. "It's like nothing that would evolve naturally." 3 days after first contact, Earth's leaders agreed to the aliens' invitation. Humanity would send representatives to the Galactic Council. The news spread across the planet, bringing hope and fear in equal measure. Religious leaders debated what this meant for their faiths. Stock markets rose and fell wildly. Children looked up at the stars with new understanding. Alan and Susan were named as Earth's official representatives for the first formal meeting with the Council. They would travel to the alien ship the next day for the invitation ceremony. That night, Kate Powell couldn't sleep. She kept reviewing the alien data, feeling that she was missing something important. On a hunch, she compared their genetic patterns to Earth's evolutionary history. What she found made her sit up straight in her chair. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." The pattern she discovered suggested the aliens' biology had been designed, not evolved. More disturbing, there were elements in their genetic code that seemed deliberately limited, as if certain biological pathways had been removed or blocked. The next morning, Alan and Susan stood in formal clothes as they were welcomed aboard the alien ship for the ceremony. This time, more aliens were present, representatives from 12 different species in the Council. They all watched the humans with the same strange mix of curiosity and hidden nervousness. The ceremony was brief. Earth was formally invited to take its place in the Galactic Council. A document was signed. The beacon was officially presented. "We look forward to humanity joining us at the Council in 6 months' time," Zorthul said. "Your seat has been waiting. For you." Susan caught the odd phrasing. "Waiting for us? For how long?" Another quick exchange of glances between the aliens. "A figure of speech," one said smoothly. "The Council is always ready to welcome new members." As they prepared to leave, Susan noticed one alien watching her intently. Unlike the others, this one's eyes showed not nervousness but something deeper, a sadness or pity that made Susan's skin crawl. Back on Earth, Kate Powell made her decision. She would need to speak with the representatives before they returned to the Council. Something wasn't right about this perfect first contact, and she feared Earth was walking into something it didn't understand. The aliens departed as quickly as they had arrived, leaving behind only the beacon and a promise to return in 6 months to escort humanity to its place among the stars. As their ship vanished into the sky, Alan held the beacon in his hands, wondering what new future it represented. What he didn't know was that inside the beautiful silver device, advanced sensors were already measuring something the aliens found, both fascinating and deeply troubling, patterns of human thought unlike anything in the rest of the galaxy. Kate Powell packed her research and headed for the airport. She needed to reach Alan and Susan before it was too late, because if her theory was correct, the aliens weren't telling the whole truth about why Earth's seat on the Galactic Council had remained empty until now. 6 months passed quickly. The world changed in ways both big and small after the aliens' visit. People looked at the stars differently now. Children played aliens instead of cowboys and Indians. New religions formed, while old ones split, over how to understand humanity's place in a wider universe. United Nations Secretary Joseph Barnes had been chosen to lead Earth's first official delegation to the Galactic Council. With him were 20 other representatives, including Alan Wright and Susan Miller, who had met the aliens first. They gathered at the landing site, where 3 alien ships waited to take them to the Council headquarters. "Remember, Secretary," Barnes told them before boarding, "we represent all of humanity now. Every word, every action will be remembered in history books." The journey took 3 days. The human delegates spent much of that time staring out windows at the impossible beauty of space. They passed Jupiter's red storm, saw Saturn's rings up close, and then suddenly jumped to another part of space entirely through what the aliens called a fold gate. When they arrived, the humans fell silent in awe. The galactic hub was bigger than Earth's moon, a giant wheel turning slowly in space. Thousands of ships moved around it like bees around a hive. Light sparkled off its surface in patterns that looked like giant cities. "Welcome to the hub," their alien guide said. "Home of the Galactic Council for the past 12,000 years. Susan noted the exact number. 12,000 years ago, humans were just learning to farm. The aliens had been running a galactic government since before the first human cities. The human delegation was given rooms in what they were told was the new species wing. Everything was designed to make them comfortable. with Earth-like gravity, temperature, and even food made to look like human dishes. "Have you noticed?" Susan whispered to Alan after their first meal. "All the other new species are in a different section. We're isolated here." Alan nodded. "And there are more security devices than they've explained. See those silver panels? They're scanning us constantly." The next day was the formal ceremony where Earth would take its place in the council. The humans dressed in their best clothes and followed their guides through endless gleaming hallways. They entered a massive round chamber where hundreds of alien species sat in rising circles. The room hummed with strange languages and stranger smells. Secretary Barnes was led to the center of the chamber where a tall alien in flowing robes waited. This was the council elder, they were told, the leader of all proceedings. "Earth comes before the council," the elder announced, voice booming across the chamber. "A new voice joins our chorus of worlds." Secretary Barnes bowed deeply. "Earth is honored to accept membership in the Galactic Council. We bring with us humanity's hopes for peace, cooperation, and shared knowledge." The ceremony continued with speeches and rituals the humans only partly understood. Then came the moment to place Earth's symbol, a simple blue and green circle, on their assigned council seat. Secretary Barnes followed the elder to a section of the chamber that seemed oddly separated from the others. The Earth seat stood alone, with empty spaces on either side. Unlike other sections where species were clustered together, Earth's seat seemed deliberately isolated. "This will be humanity's voice in the council," the elder said, pressing Earth's symbol onto the seat. Barnes ran his hand over the seat's surface and felt old markings beneath. "This seat seems weathered compared to the others," he said casually. The elder's face twitched slightly. "All seats are maintained to the same standard." Later, during a tour of the council archives, Barnes mentioned this to the council archivist, a small creature named Elavex, who seemed more relaxed around humans than most aliens. "Oh yes, Earth's seat is quite old," Elavex said, sorting through glowing data crystals. "It has existed for—" She stopped suddenly, then continued more carefully, "for as long as most council seats." "But how could that be?" Barnes asked. "We only just joined." Elavex looked around nervously. "Some seats are prepared in advance, for species showing particular promise." How far in advance was Earth's seat prepared? Elavex seemed to struggle internally before answering. "The records indicate Earth's seat was designated approximately 10,000 years ago, but has remained ceremonially empty." Back on Earth, Kate Powell was running out of time. After months of research, she had finally gained access to the beacon that the aliens had given to humanity. Working with her research partner Ben Howard, she had built a device to scan the beacon without opening it. "It's not just a communication device," Ben said, looking at their results. "It's actively scanning and sending data." Kate nodded grimly. "And look what it's focused on. Brainwave patterns. It's specifically monitoring human thought processes." Their lab door burst open. 4 men in dark suits entered without a word. "Dr. Powell, Mr. Howard," one said flatly, "you need to come with us. Your research has been classified." Kate grabbed a small data drive and slipped it into her pocket as the men approached. "Ben," she whispered. "Plan B." On the council station, Susan had made an unusual friend. Tikra was a maintenance worker, a member of the Vorsai species, short, furry beings with 6 limbs and large eyes. Unlike most aliens, Tikra seemed genuinely interested in humans rather than nervously polite. "Your species moves differently than others," Tikra told Susan as they shared a meal in the station's enormous food hall. "You make decisions, unexpectedly." "Is that bad?" Susan asked. "No, it's fascinating." Tikra leaned closer. "Most council species think in patterns, logical, predictable. Even we Vorsai. But humans jump between ideas like water bugs on a pond," Susan smiled. "That's just how we think." "But that's what makes you unique," Tikra said excitedly. "Most species were guided to think in structured ways." "Guided? You mean through education?" Tikra looked suddenly uncomfortable. "Through history, evolution, the pathways most life follows when developing intelligence." "But not Earth?" "Earth?" Tikra whispered. Earth was overlooked? You evolved naturally. Before Susan could ask what that meant, alarms sounded throughout the station. The food hall screens lit up with security alerts. An alien voice announced, Shadow Protocol Alpha is now active in sections 12 through 15. All personnel follow containment procedures. What's happening? Susan asked, but Tikra was already backing away, eyes wide with fear. I've said too much, the alien whispered. Be careful, human. The empty seat was never meant to be filled. Susan stood frozen as her new friend disappeared into the crowd. Around her, aliens were moving quickly away from the human delegation members scattered throughout the food hall. On the screens, a map showed sections 12 through 15, exactly where the human quarters were located. Something had gone very wrong, and Susan now realized that it had something to do with why Earth's council seat had remained empty for 10,000 years. Until now. Alan Wright was in the human quarters when the alarms began. He had been studying the strange symbols on the walls of his room, symbols that appeared and disappeared depending on the angle of light. When the alarm sounded, the symbols suddenly glowed bright red. Security aliens rushed into the human section. They were different from the diplomatic aliens, taller, with armor that seemed to shift and move like liquid. They carried no visible weapons, but moved with clear purpose. All humans must remain in your quarters, one announced in a flat voice. This is standard procedure. Alan stepped forward. What's happening? We have a right to know. The security alien stared at him with large, unblinking eyes. A human has activated Shadow Protocol Alpha. We are containing the situation. What is Shadow Protocol Alpha? Alan asked. The alien simply repeated, Please remain in your quarters, and left, sealing the door. Alan tried the communication panel beside his door, hoping to reach Susan or Secretary Barnes. Instead, a message appeared. All communication restricted during Shadow Protocol activation. Meanwhile, Susan was trying to find her way back to the human section from the food hall. The normal transport tubes were shut down, and aliens were avoiding her. She found a maintenance door and remembered Tikra had shown her how these doors connected to service tunnels throughout the station. Inside the tunnels, Susan moved quickly through narrow passages. She had almost reached the human quarters when she heard voices ahead. Pressing herself against the wall, she listened. Third activation this cycle. The humans keep triggering it without even trying. Their thought patterns are unpredictable. That's why the seat remained empty so long. The council was foolish to think they could be contained now. Susan held her breath as the aliens passed. Then she continued through the tunnels until she reached a small viewing room overlooking a large chamber she had never seen before. Inside the chamber, several senior council members surrounded what looked like a glowing model of a human brain. The divergence is clear, said one alien Susan recognized as a council elder. Their neural pathways form connections we've never seen in any other species. Another alien pointed to a particular part of the brain model. This section should be dormant, according to the standard development pattern. Yet in humans it's highly active. This is why Shadow Protocol exists, said the elder. The progenitors foresaw this possibility. A species that develops divergent cognition could unbalance everything the council has built. Susan didn't understand all she was hearing, but one thing was clear. The aliens were afraid of something about human minds. Back on Earth, Kate Powell and Ben Howard had escaped from the men in suits. They had enacted their emergency plan, splitting up and meeting at an old cabin owned by Ben's family, far from any city. The data looks clear, Kate said, reviewing what they'd managed to save. The beacon is specifically designed to monitor human creativity and problem-solving. It activates when we think in ways the aliens don't expect. Ben nodded, looking at their makeshift equipment. But why would they care so much about how we think? A noise outside made them freeze. Kate peeked through the window and saw a woman approaching alone. She carried no visible weapons but moved with military precision. My name is Olivia Garcia, the woman called out. I know you're in there, Dr. Powell. I'm here to help. Kate and Ben exchanged looks. Why should we trust you? Kate called back. Because I've been tracking alien activity on Earth for 15 years, Olivia replied. And I know what they're really doing with the beacon. After careful questioning, they let Olivia in. She was a former military intelligence officer who had been part of a small government unit, investigating strange signals from space long before the aliens officially arrived. The beacon isn't just monitoring us, Olivia explained. It's mapping, what they call divergent cognition, human creativity and problem-solving that doesn't follow expected patterns. My team intercepted transmissions showing the aliens are both fascinated and terrified by how human minds work. Together, the three of them connected their equipment to analyze the partial beacon data Kate had stolen. After hours of work, patterns began to emerge. Look at this, Ben said excitedly. The beacon activates most strongly when humans make creative leaps or solve problems in unexpected ways. It's almost like they're studying how we think outside the box, Kate said. Olivia nodded grimly. Because they can't. On the council station, Ambassador Wright had managed to override his door's lock using a trick he'd learned from watching the maintenance workers. The aliens had good security, but they never expected humans to try the specific approach Alan used. It simply wouldn't occur to them. He made his way carefully through empty hallways, looking for other humans. Instead, he found an archive room, left unlocked in the hurry to implement the Shadow Protocol. Inside were data crystals like those used by the Council Archivist. Alan had watched the archivists enough to know how to access basic information. He placed a crystal in the reader and was surprised when it activated, without requiring any security checks. The aliens were so confident in their security that they relied more on access restriction than encryption. The crystal contained historical records about Council first contact procedures. Alan searched for Earth and found something strange. Earth had been classified under divergent evolution monitoring for over 10,000 years. Notes indicated regular scans of the planet but a policy of absolute non-interference, unlike the subtly guided development other worlds received. One record stood out, a warning labeled Progenitor Directive that stated, "Species developing naturally may exhibit divergent cognition. Shadow Protocol Alpha must be implemented at first signs of creative problem-solving outside standard parameters." Alan was so focused on reading that he didn't notice the door opening behind him. A tall alien in formal robes entered silently. "You shouldn't be able to access those records," the alien said softly. Alan turned quickly. "Yet here I am. Why are you monitoring how humans think? What are you afraid of?" The alien studied him for a long moment. "My name is Shir Cole. I am one of the oldest council members, and you are right to ask these questions. Will you answer?" "Them?" Alan asked. "Yes," Shir Cole said. "Because you deserve to know why Earth's seat remained empty for so long, and why so many of us feared it would finally be filled." Meanwhile, Susan had found her way to Secretary Barnes and told him what she'd overheard. As Earth's highest-ranking representative, he immediately demanded an emergency meeting with the council leadership. "They're hiding something fundamental about humans," he told Susan, "and I intend to find out what it is." Shirkole led Alan to a small room with no visible monitoring devices. The ancient alien moved slowly, as if carrying a great weight. When the door closed behind them, the air seemed to shift, and Alan felt a strange pressure in his ears. "This room blocks all scanning," Shirkole explained. "What I tell you now goes against 10,000 years of council policy." Alan sat across from the alien. "I'm listening. Long ago, the council's founding species, the progenitors, discovered something they called divergent cognition. It is a way of thinking that allows for unexpected connections." Shirkole paused. "In simple terms, it is creativity in its purest form, the ability to imagine what has never existed." "All intelligent beings have creativity," Alan said. Shirkole shook his head slowly. "No, not as humans do. The council species can improve on existing ideas, follow logical paths to their conclusions, but true creative leaps, seeing connections where none should exist, imagining completely new possibilities, this ability was removed." "Removed? How?" The progenitors believed divergent cognition was dangerous. They engineered it out of themselves, then ensured all species they guided would develop intelligence without this trait. For millions of years, all intelligent life in council space has followed predictable thought patterns. Alan tried to process this information. But humans evolved differently. Earth was an oversight, a clerical error made eons ago. Your planet should have received the standard guidance protocols that subtly direct evolution along safe paths. Instead, you were simply observed but never altered. On Earth, Kate, Ben, and Olivia had made a breakthrough. By analyzing the beacon's transmission patterns, they identified what they called the Promethean gene complex, sections of human DNA that enabled abstract thinking and cognitive adaptability beyond what the aliens possessed. "Look at this," Kate said, pointing to their makeshift screen. "When a human makes a creative leap, connecting ideas in a new way, these areas light up. The beacon is specifically monitoring this activity." "But why?" Ben asked. "Why would advanced aliens care so much about human creativity?" Olivia had been quiet, studying old files she'd brought. "Because they don't have it," she said finally. "My unit intercepted transmissions years ago suggesting council species think differently than humans. They're logical and methodical, but they struggle with innovation." "That's hard to believe," Ben said. "They have technology thousands of years beyond ours. Technology built through small, incremental improvements over millions of years," Olivia replied. "Imagine what they could have achieved if they thought like humans." Back on the council station, Susan and Secretary Barnes stood before a hastily assembled group of council elders. The room was tense, with security aliens lining the walls. "We demand an explanation," Barnes said firmly. "Why is Earth under special monitoring? What is Shadow Protocol Alpha?" The elders exchanged looks before one stepped forward. "Your species has demonstrated unusual cognitive patterns that require careful observation." "You mean our creativity?" Susan said. "You're afraid of how humans think." A ripple of discomfort passed through the aliens. The lead elder spoke carefully. "Not afraid. Cautious. Divergent cognition has historical implications." In the private room, Cole continued explaining to Alan. "The progenitors believed divergent cognition led to a great catastrophe in the distant past. They called it the divergence, a time when unbounded creativity led to technologies that could not be controlled. So they decided to limit all future intelligent life," Alan said, understanding dawning. "They engineered the capacity for creative thinking out of the galaxy. Yes, and for millions of years it brought stability. Progress was slow but safe. Then our long-range scans detected something alarming on Earth, a species developing divergent cognition naturally. That's why Earth's seat remained empty," Alan realized. "You were waiting to see if humans would destroy ourselves with our creativity." "Some council members hoped you would," Cole admitted. "Others wanted to correct your evolution." The empty seat was a compromise, a warning, and a hope. If humans survived their own creativity long enough to reach space, they would be studied carefully before any decision was made. On Earth, Kate's team received an unexpected message on one of their secure channels. It was from a scientist who had been working with the beacon before being sidelined by government agents. "The beacon isn't just monitoring," the message read. "It's mapping the entire human thought process. I believe the aliens want to understand how we make creative leaps." Kate looked at her colleagues. "They don't want to destroy our creativity. They want to learn from it." Olivia wasn't convinced. "Or they want to know how it works so they can eliminate it more effectively." On the station, the confrontation between humans and council elders grew tense. "We have evidence that council species were engineered to think in limited ways," Susan said boldly. "Is that why you fear human creativity? Because you lost your own?" The chamber fell completely silent. Then, one elder, older than the others, stepped forward. "Not lost," he said quietly. "Sacrificed. After the divergence nearly destroyed all life in this part of the galaxy, our ancestors chose safety over unpredictable creativity. The seat remained empty as a reminder of what we gave up." Secretary Barnes stood tall. Earth will not accept any attempt to change how humans think. We will not give up our creativity to join your council. We are not asking you to, the elder replied, surprising everyone. Some of us believe humans represent an opportunity, a chance to understand divergent cognition in a controlled environment. Susan's eyes narrowed. You mean you want to study us like lab animals? No, came a voice from the chamber entrance. It was Shirkul with Alan beside him. Not like animals, like teachers. The ancient alien walked slowly to the center of the chamber. I have broken protocol by sharing our past with this human, but it is time for truth. The progenitors' final records show they regretted their decision to limit intelligent life. They created Earth's empty seat as a hope that natural evolution would eventually correct their mistake. Alan stepped forward. The real reason the seat remained empty wasn't fear. It was expectation. You were waiting for beings who could teach you how to think creatively again. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled aliens. Some seemed horrified, others curious, and a very few seemed relieved, as if a great burden had been lifted. On Earth, Kate's team had finally decoded the full purpose of the beacon. It wasn't just monitoring human thought patterns. It was the first step in a process designed to eventually restore divergent cognition to council species. They engineered creativity out of themselves, Kate whispered, and now they need us to help them get it back. The days that followed were filled with tense meetings. The council was divided. Some wanted to welcome humans fully, while others feared what might happen if creative thinking spread throughout the galaxy again. We cannot risk another divergence, one elder argued. Humans must be contained or modified. Secretary Barnes stood firm. Earth will accept no changes to human biology. We will leave the council before we give up what makes us human. Shirkul, who had become a surprising ally to the humans, offered a compromise. What if humans could help council species safely regain what was lost? Not all at once, but slowly, with careful monitoring. The debate lasted for days. Meanwhile, Susan spent time with her friend Tikra, learning more about how council species thought. It's hard to explain, Tikra said. We can understand new ideas if each step is logical, but making a leap without clear steps between, this is what we cannot do. Like imagination, Susan suggested, seeing what isn't there yet. Yes, we can improve what exists, but creating something truly new? Tikra's voice trailed off sadly. On Earth, Kate's team made their most important discovery yet. With help from their government scientist contact, they fully decoded the beacon's purpose. It's not just studying human creativity, Kate explained to her colleagues. It's designed to map the genetic and neural patterns that make creativity possible. The Council wants to understand how humans make creative leaps so they can possibly restore this ability to themselves. Can that even be done? Ben asked. If their species have been engineered for millions of years to think differently? The fact that they're trying suggests it's possible, Olivia said. The question is, should we help them? Back on the Council station, Alan was invited to witness something few outsiders had ever seen. Shirkul took him to a sealed chamber deep within the station. Inside was a simple stone pedestal with a small glowing object that seemed to shift colors and shapes as they watched. This is the last creation of the progenitors before they removed divergent cognition from themselves, Shirkul explained. They called it the Seed of Renewal. It contains instructions for reversing what they did, restoring creative thinking, but only when the time was right. And they decided the time was right when humans arrived? Alan asked. Not exactly. The seed can only be activated by a mind that already possesses divergent cognition. For millions of years it has waited for someone like you. Alan stared at the shifting object. You want a human to activate it? Some of us do, Shirkul admitted. Others fear it. That is why Earth's seat remained empty. We were waiting, but also dreading. The Council called an emergency session. All species representatives gathered as Secretary Barnes and the human delegation took their places. The Earth seat, no longer empty, seemed to draw every eye in the chamber. "We have reached a decision," announced the lead elder. "Humanity may keep its seat in the council, unmodified and free to develop as it wishes." A murmur of surprise ran through the chamber. "However," the elder continued, "we request that Earth share with us the gift that was denied to the rest of the galaxy. We seek to understand human creativity, not to remove it, but to learn from it." Barnes looked at his team, then stood. "Earth is willing to share our knowledge, but with conditions. Any species that wishes to learn from us must guarantee they will not use this knowledge to harm others, and the process must be voluntary. No species should be forced to change." The elder nodded. "Agreed." Kate Powell was called from Earth to lead the research team. When she arrived at the station and learned the full truth, she was both amazed and cautious. "We can help map the genetics of creativity," she told the council science team. "But understanding the biology isn't enough. Creativity isn't just in our genes. It's in our history, our struggles, our failures, and our dreams." During the weeks that followed, an unusual exchange began. Human teachers arrived from Earth to work with council scientists. They taught not just facts, but ways of thinking, asking what-if questions, making unexpected connections, imagining new possibilities. Some council species adapted quickly, showing the first tiny sparks of divergent cognition. Others struggled, their minds unable to break free from millions of years of engineered limitations. It would be a long process, perhaps taking generations. The mystery of Earth's empty seat was finally understood by all. It had remained empty not just out of fear, but out of hope. Hope that natural evolution would eventually bring back what had been lost. 3 months after the humans took their place on the council, a small ceremony was held in the chamber with the Seed of Renewal. After much discussion, Alan Wright had agreed to attempt to activate it. "Are you sure about this?" Susan asked him before the ceremony. "No," Alan admitted. "But sometimes you have to take a leap without knowing where you'll land. That's the human way, isn't it?" The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Alan approached the pedestal where the seed glowed and shifted. He placed his hands on either side of it and closed his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the seed's light changed, flowing up Alan's arms and surrounding him in a gentle glow. The light spread, touching everyone in the room. Where it passed, eyes widened and faces, both human and alien, showed expressions of wonder. "What is happening?" someone whispered. "I don't know," came the reply. "But I can imagine possibilities I never could before." The seed's light gradually faded, leaving the chamber in silence. Then Shirkol spoke, his voice filled with emotion that had been engineered out of his species long ago. "The progenitor's final gift has been given," he said. "Not all at once, but a beginning. The capacity for divergent cognition will grow slowly in those who wish to receive it." In the council chamber the next day, Earth's seat, no longer empty, was joined by a new symbol. Beside the blue and green circle of Earth now stood a small flame, representing the spark of creativity returned to the galaxy. Secretary Barnes touched the symbol and smiled at his team. "Not bad for a species that developed by accident." "Not accident," Shirkol corrected him gently. "Perhaps the greatest purpose of all, to remind the galaxy of what it had forgotten. That is why Earth's seat stayed empty for so long. It was waiting for you." As they looked out at the stars through the chamber's great windows, humans and aliens stood side by side, together imagining possibilities that had been unthinkable for millions of years.